when we are given two vectors, vector A and vector B, and we are asked to join these vectors for addition using the parallelogram law. The first thing we do is to bring out our vector A. So we make sure the tail of vector B joins with the tail of vector A. I repeat, make sure the tail of vector B joins with the tail of vector A. Remember, I'm not using the tail of vector B to join with the head of vector A. I'm using the tail of vector B to join with the tail of vector A. To get the resultant vector, please note that the tail of the resultant vector is going to meet with the tail of vector A and the tail of vector B. Okay, the tail of the resultant vector is going to meet with the tail of vector A and the tail of vector B. So this is what we are having. So this is the resultant vector here. So the tail of the resultant vector is meeting with the tail of vector A and the tail of vector B. The next thing we are going to do is to complete this parallelogram. So we have completed our parallelogram. Okay, so what we did was that we made sure that the tail of the resultant vector, which is r equal to a plus b, is placed in such a way that it will meet with the tail of vector A and vector B. Okay, so to get this addition, it simply means that the resultant vector is equal to vector A plus vector B. When we have two vectors, the first vector is having 100 Newton, the force of 100 Newton facing towards the east direction, while the second vector is having a force of 150 Newton facing towards the east direction as well. Now we can say this is our four cardinal points. Okay, our north, our south, our east, and our west. The two forces are facing towards the east direction. Assuming this is our Cartesian plane, okay, this is our x-axis. So from this point to the east is our positive x-axis, while this point to the west is our negative x-axis. So any force facing towards the east is positive, thereby we are going to add, while the force facing towards the west is negative, we are going to subtract. So we should take note of this. Any force facing towards the east is positive, we are going to add, while the force facing towards the west is negative, so we are going to subtract. Since these two forces are facing towards the east direction, that means they are facing towards the positive x-axis direction. So we are going to add them together. So 100 Newton plus 150 Newton will give us 250 Newton. We are having two forces. The first force is facing towards the east direction or the positive x-axis direction. So we are having this as positive 100 Newtons. While the second force is facing towards the negative x-axis direction, so we can say this is negative 150 Newton. So since this is facing towards the positive and this facing towards the negative, what we are going to do is that we are going to subtract the two vectors. So it will become 100 minus 150. So if you subtract those two vectors, 100 minus 150, we are going to get minus 50 Newton. So 100 Newton minus 150 Newton will give us minus 50 Newton. And since it is negative, it's going towards the negative x-axis direction, so the arrow will face towards the negative x-axis direction. What if two vectors are perpendicular to each other? How do we find the addition of these two vectors? we are going to use the head and the tail method. So the head and the tail method we discussed before was that the tail of vector B, okay, is going to join with the head of vector A. The tail of vector B is going to join with the head of vector A. So if you are joining the tail of vector B with the head of vector A, you have the vector this way. If these two vectors are perpendicular, we can form a right-angled triangle. We can form a right-angled triangle. So this is a right-angled triangle which we have formed here. We have these other vectors. For the second example, the first vector is 30, second vector is 40. How do we join them up? Now what we are going to do is that we are going to still use the head to tail method. So the tail of vector B, or the second vector, is going to join with the head of the first vector. So by the time we join the vectors up, we have this, okay? Now these two vectors has formed a right angle triangle. So what will be the resultant vector? If I want to get the resultant vector, how do I get it? Since this is also a right angle triangle, we can use Pythagoras Theorem to solve for that. Now, using Pythagoras Theorem, it states that if we have a squared plus b squared equal to c squared, our a is 30, that's 30 squared, our b is 40, 40 squared, and our c is the resultant vector, which is fr squared. So 30 squared is 900 plus 40 squared 1600. So if you add these two vectors, you will get 2500. So the square root of 2500 is equal to 50 Newton. So the addition or the resultant vector, which is 30 and 40, to find the resultant vector between 30 and 40, between these two vectors, it is equal to 50 Newton. The modulus of a vector in terms of its components is given by the formula modulus of r equal to square root of x squared plus y squared. Modulus of r equal to square root of x squared plus y squared. If we are given this example to find the modulus of each of the following vectors, vector 1, 3 plus 4, vector 2, minus 2 minus 5. How are we going to solve it? First of all, to solve this problem, we are going to write down the formula, which is modulus of r equal to square root of x squared plus y squared. So we know that the modulus of r is equal to 3 plus 4. Okay, let modulus of r be equal to 3 plus 4. So anywhere we see x, we replace x with 3 and we replace y with 4. So here will be 3 squared plus 4 squared, which is equal to 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16, so 9 plus 16 is 25. So the square root of 25 is equal to 5. We are asked to find the modulus of this vector. So the first thing we are going to do is to write down our formula, which is modulus of r equal to x squared, square root of x squared plus y squared. We know that our r is equal to minus 2 minus 5. So what we are going to do now will be to replace minus 2 for x and minus 5 for y. So anywhere we see x, we put minus 2. So minus 2 squared plus y is minus 5 squared. Minus 2 squared is minus 2 times minus 2, which is 4. Minus 5 squared is minus 5 times minus 5, which is 25. So 4 plus 25 is equal to 29. So we are having square root of 29.